Hi, Chietigj. Thank you so much for speaking to PTI today. If I may request you to start by introducing yourself and the role you have at Chatham House.
Sure. My name is Dr. Chietigj Bajpaee. I'm Senior Research Fellow for South Asia at Chatham House, which is a UK-based international affairs think tank. And my focus is on India and South Asia.
Great. Let's start with where things are at. Of course, it's a very fast-moving, fluid kind of situation. Any analysis kind of seems a little old the moment it's done. But if we can get your thoughts on, the what seems like escalation of tensions on both sides now between India and Pakistan.
Yeah, so, obviously looking at it from a big picture standpoint, the situation is clearly going from bad to worse. We're clearly moving up the escalation ladder, from the terrorist attack that we saw on the 22nd of April, which killed 26 people, to India's military retaliation on the 7th of May, to last night's response by Pakistan. The rules of engagement, I think, have broken down to a degree from what we've seen during previous periods of tension. I think the rules of engagement had already been strained and stretched to some degree. In 2016, we saw with surgical strikes, India crossing the line of control into Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, and then in 2019 with the airstrikes into Pakistan itself. But what we've seen now is escalated beyond that point, even with the targets beyond Jammu and Kashmir and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, targeting major cities on both sides, naval operations by the Indian Navy, the Indus Water Treaty being held in abeyance. So I clearly, I think it remains to be seen if both countries will seek off ramps in the coming days, or if they will further escalate. And all indications right now are of further escalation, I think.
Yes, so varying times and on the off-ramp point, maybe we can stay with that. As the Indian High Commissioner said in an interview overnight, that as far as India is concerned, there were several opportunities that Pakistan had in terms of taking the off-ramp. India had made it clear that it was a very precision-oriented strike that they had done on terrorist camps, and of course, no country should have any problems with that on the face of it. So, just your thoughts on the fact that Pakistan did claim we brought down this many jets, etc. Were there opportunities for an off ramp that have been intentionally overlooked, you think?
Yeah, I do think so. But I don't think the opportunity has yet passed. Again, putting this in a broader context, it's about both sides, appeasing their domestic political constituencies to some degree, both of their countries' hyper-nationalist foreign policies, and re-establishing the credibility of their deterrence posture. So that would help, that is a potential de-escalation pathway. The Indian side has stated that they're committed to non-escalation provided it is respected by the Pakistani military. I think there's obviously a political component to this. I think India's decision to, reinstate the Indus Water Treaty, Pakistan doing the same with the agreements that it's threatened to suspend, that would also help to de-escalate tension. So I think there are several de-escalation pathways if either party decides to pursue them. And I think so far it seems that India has initial operation were these precision strikes, targeting terrorist facilities, avoiding military facilities. I think that was a clear strategic signal that it wanted to keep the conflict contained. But so far, all indications are that Pakistan has not sort of heeded that signal, and it has decided to escalate with its strikes last night. So I think it remains to be seen whether this both countries decide to pursue these potential de-escalation pathways.
Great. And do you see a role for the UK in that de-escalation? I mean, the Prime Minister downwards have called for de-escalation repeatedly. That's kind of the general view of and just the wider international community as well. I mean, the US Vice President has kind of said it's none of our business. So, what role do you see UK specifically and also wider international community?
So I mean, most of the international community has come forward calling for restraint and de-escalation, including the United Kingdom. I think, frankly, New Delhi finds this frustrating to a degree because it creates a sense of false equivalency between India's actions and Pakistan's actions. The other point, I think, is that both countries have different stances or different appetite for international mediations. I think Pakistan is far more eager to have third parties involved in the Kashmir issue, whereas, of course, India is not. It sees it as a bilateral and also domestic issue. So, and if there is any external involvement from India's perspective, it is about restraining Pakistan's actions. So I think, the UK has made this statement. Several other countries have. I think what's sort of worrying is, unlike previous periods of India-Pakistan hostility, where the US had played a prominent role in helping to de-escalate tensions, that is what we've seen so far is the US role has been quite limited. The US Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, has spoken to both the Indian and Pakistani national security advisors. Trump has made some quite frankly nonchalant statements. He said that if there's anything that can be done, anything I can do to help, then I'll be there, and that India and Pakistan will sort this out one way or the other. I think it partially reflects, the Trump administration's worldview, which is to a degree seeing the world through some sort of prism of spheres of influence. So in that context, South Asia is not a primary area of concern for the United States, particularly in the aftermath of the US and NATO withdrawal from Afghanistan in 2021, which I think has diminished South Asia's importance to the United States. I think an important watch point will be to see the role of other countries, perhaps beyond the usual suspects. I think, we've seen Iran has offered to mediate, and the foreign minister has visited India this week. It will be interesting to see what the Gulf Arab states, what role, if any, they have to play. UAE, for instance, which had a role to play in brokering the 2021 ceasefire that was negotiated along the line of control, and then countries like Saudi Arabia and Qatar that have demonstrated their credentials as mediators for other conflicts in Ukraine and Gaza, for instance. The other countries that are out there, Russia, Turkey, China, frankly, I think they lack any credibility as impartial mediators. So I think as of now, I think that is also another factor which has contributed to the escalation of tensions, is that you have a limited role by third parties or the international community in trying to de-escalate tensions.
So, Kshitij, just to then saying a little bit on that point and taking it a bit further, let's zero in on China. You had recently co-authored a major report on how India-China relations would shape the Asia outlook in the future. If you could talk a little bit from that standpoint, in there you had referenced that any direct or overt support that China provides Pakistan in a future conflict with Kashmir, which has happened sooner than any of us had sort of envisioned at that point, would be a red line for India. So how do you see, what is the role of China you see here, given their big arms supply connection with Pakistan?
So I think officially Beijing's position is that it has a neutral position on the conflict. It's condemned the terrorist attacks which took place. It's called on both sides to exercise restraint. But in reality, China has very much leaned in favor of Pakistan. It's referred to it as its ironclad friend, as its all-weather partner. It says that it fully understands Pakistan's legitimate security concerns and called for an impartial investigation into the attack. And then if you place this in a broader context, we see that over 80% of Pakistan's military arms imports have come from China over the last 5 years. China has also blocked efforts by India to place Pakistan-based terrorist organizations on UN sanctions lists. And of course, China is also a party to the Kashmir dispute through its claims in eastern Ladakh or Aksai Chin, where both countries clashed in 2020, and then a slice of territory, the Shaksgam Tract or the Trans-Karakoram Tract, was actually handed over by Pakistan to China in 1963. So in reality, I think China's position is far from neutral on the Kashmir issue and on the India-Pakistan relationship. I think much will depend on how the situation evolves over the coming days, weeks, and months. If we see signs of a wider conflict, wider conventional or God forbid a nuclear conflict, I think China would in that case play a potentially more hands-on role in trying to de-escalate tensions. And then, of course, we need to remember that from the perspective of Indian military planners, the worst case scenario is facing a potential two-front war, dealing with both China and Pakistan at the same time. I think the prospects of this happening are low. The last time we came anywhere near such a situation or scenario was during the 1971 war between India and Pakistan. But I think that is obviously a consideration as well. But I don't think China has the credentials to play the role of a credible mediator or an impartial mediator in the ongoing instabilities between India and Pakistan.